Good morning. We're very happy to be here today to unveil this memorial to Rattray or Crimond Airfield. Like so many airfields, this one has an extremely interesting history, and quite an unusual one, because this was a virtually unique airfield, at least in one sense, in that whereas all World War II airfields, the land was selected by the Air Ministry, in this case the Admiralty decided upon the selection of the land here. It was chosen in the middle of World War II, but so slow was construction that the airfield did not actually open until October 1944, and indeed was only the third last airfield to open in Britain during World War II, only being superseded by Bentwaters and Culham, two airfields in southern England. This was a Royal Navy airfield and was built as such with 4 runways, naval hangars and all sorts of other facilities that were to do with the Fleet Air Arm. It was originally called Crimond, but there was a name change in the summer of 1945 that, due by all accounts to postal communications difficulties, this airfield had to change its name from Crimond to Rattray, although somewhat confusingly the Royal Navy tended also to call it as Rattray Head, after the nearby peninsula. The initial idea was to carry out observer school training here, but then there was a change in strategic thinking and torpedo bomber training carried on here, flying quite a well-known aircraft of the time named the Fairey Barracuda, which was a rather angular looking aircraft that was also quite a tricky aircraft to fly, and several aircraft indeed actually crashed in this general area. But Rattray gave extremely good service, albeit it entered service towards the end of World War II. This carried on into 1946, and then the airfield was paid off, or closed of sorts in naval parlance, and moved onto a care and maintenance capacity. But the actual closure of the airfield was not, as people might think, in the late summer of 1946, but actually the end of 1947. Thereafter, the land still remained in military hands, and by the early 1950s, it was still seen, although it has been a disused airfield, as being a potential reserve airfield for military use in case war broke out again, thinking maybe, say, about the Korean War, for example. However, there was another major development that still carries on today in a certain capacity: motor racing. Now, depending on who you believe, motor racing certainly was active here by, say, about 1954, although contrarily there's a suggestion of 1951. But this is a very important part of the Rattray or Crimond Airfield story, because 66 years and 2 days ago, the 16th of June 1956, a young man who lived in the Scottish borders came here to participate in what was his first ever competitive motorsport event, And that young man was one of the greatest Scottish sporting figures of all time, and indeed still regarded as at least one of the world's greatest ever motor racing drivers, the one and only, the absolutely legendary Jim Clark. This is about a large degree what our airfields are all about. Just all-encompassing aspects of everyday life and society. Helping people, advancing society, all sorts of things. And you just see this today at the airfield. It's still used for motorsport. The raceway there that's been around since certainly 1970. Then Rattray still performs a tremendously important defence communications function today, so that can't be forgotten. Then we also have, as can be readily evidently seen, for example, the industrial estate. So therefore, whether we're talking about sport or just life in general, Rattray still hugely matters. Therefore, as with any of our airfields in Britain, we've just got to take far, far better care of our airfields, and not forgetting all the people who have served at them, plus their families, and then not least the builders of Rattray. And it's worth mentioning incidentally that only yesterday, by sheer chance, I met an elderly gentleman whose father actually helped build this airfield. It was fascinating to hear. So, as we just simply say in our travels, please do all you possibly can to help save and honour and protect all of our airfields such as Rattray. And therefore it is with great pleasure that I am, on behalf of ABCT, able to unveil what is now our 193rd memorial to yet another of our absolutely top assets in this country, the one and only Rattray or Crimond Airfield. Thank you very much.